I'm Eric Hunley, and welcome to the channel. I'm here today with Gavin Stone, and we are going to be covering, well, Amber Heard. I was not going to be covering Amber Heard anymore. I'm ready to move on. I even was looking at some other videos and other topics, but no. She can't stay out of it. She's out on tour. First it was her lawyer on tour, and now it's her. So Gavin and I are going to look. The theme of this video is that she doesn't blame the jury. However, does her body language and statement analysis agree? Gavin, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Amber is just a gift that keeps on giving, isn't she?
Yeah, she seems to be. So let's go ahead and tear through this video. Try not to spend too much time on it because honestly, it's exhausting. I don't know how she can keep coming up and up and up. It's like, I think the world is ready to move on, but she's not ready for the world to move on or something like that. So here we go.
I don't care what one thinks about me or what judgments you want to make about what happened in the privacy of my own home and my marriage behind closed doors. I don't presume the average person should know those things, and so I don't take it personally. But even somebody who is sure I'm deserving of all this hate and vitriol, even if you think.
So there's a couple of things that I picked up on as I was watching it there is when she first started speaking, you could see the emotional looking down and right when she was talking about what was going on. You could see the micro expressions of disgust back then for a moment, and the fact that she doesn't, I would say she doesn't agree with what she's saying. It doesn't seem congruent.
Okay. As it's discussed with the subject, discussed with the jury, discussed with...
It was at the point where she was talking about if other people believe that she is deserving, and you could see this kind of, for a moment where she looked, disgusted at the idea that people would be believing that she is deserving of the disrespect.
Okay.
There was other stuff as well, but those were the main things that jumped out.
Sure, I'm deserving of all this hate and vitriol. Even if you think that I'm lying, you still couldn't look me in the eye and tell me that you think on social media there's been a fair representation. You cannot tell me that you think that this has been fair.
Now, this I find fascinating because I interpret this, in my opinion, as a tacit admission that she's full of it. It feels a lot like Eve Barlow actually tweeted out after saying, even if she did lie and everything else, this is still setting back women. I'm like, what? Well, she's kind of saying, even if you absolutely believe I lied, it isn't fair. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's contradiction.
What do you see here?
Yeah, to me, there's that whole contradiction of, look, I'm not lying, but even if I was lying, then it wouldn't be very fair. And, it's like kind of, well, which are you? Because you wouldn't be saying the latter if you didn't believe, if you seriously believed the former. So, it's debatable at best. But, yeah, I believe she's tripping herself up.
Well, she's also doing an appeal right now, too, right? Believe me.
Yeah, it was a good point to spot it, actually. That kind of look for approval. Perfect pause.
Of course, we also touched on what happened in court and what the jury decided. There's no polite way to say it. The jury looked at the evidence you presented. They listened to your testimony, and they did not believe you.
I wish this was just being played and you could watch her expression as this was being said. It's very frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
Having it away from her, because now we just have to go for the... But with her and her testimony, you saw her almost pre-rehearsing things as she was being asked things when the camera's on her. And I feel like we're missing something here.
Yeah, it's really annoying. This for anybody who does anything like this when they're studying this kind of thing is the most annoying thing when the camera's on the interviewer and not the person being interviewed, so you can't see their initial reaction to the question at the point of the actual trigger. The future of television is a remote control that will allow you to select the camera angle, in my opinion.
Also, is it me or is that a look of contempt that I see?
Looks that way, yeah. She started the sentence off with, "There is no polite way to say this." I believe she is in a position where she doesn't believe anything Amber Heard's saying, but has had the duty of interviewing her.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm because I'm just, I'm like, look at this pause point. I mean, this literally looks like textbook contempt. You got down in the other, asymmetry going around, baby. So, yeah. And the tone just sounds that way.
They thought you were lying.
How could... I'll put it this way. How could they make a judgment? How could they not come to that conclusion? They had sat...
We're missing one thing. Amber. The words no.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first thing that should have been out of her mouth. The minute she said, her defence started, she should have turned around and said, but I am telling the truth, or I wasn't lying, one or the other. Either one of those two would have been great. The fact that I'm telling the truth would have probably been better than I wasn't lying, but either of them, to jump into partial defence, then stop. She's had time to think about it. Her blink rate's gone up. You can see her eyes all over the place looking for what she wants to come up with. She's stopped partway through a sentence with her explanation, decided that she's come up with something better, started with a second explanation, and again she's diversifying, she's digressing, she's not giving it a direct defence.
In those seats and heard over 3 weeks of non-stop, relentless testimony from paid employees and towards the end of the trial, randos, as I say.
So you don't blame the jury?
I don't blame them. It wasn't... I don't blame them. I actually understand. He's a beloved...
Love that. Now, hold on. From paid employees and towards the end of the trial, randos. Because it's like, oh shit, not everybody's a paid employee. So randos, like those cops. Cops come, there are random cops that are coming to, with their body cams. Those are random folks.
Yeah, that was brilliant, that was. And you got a little bit of sentence fade towards the end of what she was saying, and then obviously she's tried to cover it up with that bit of humour at the very end, make it look like it's all a big joke, which, in my opinion, probably would have backfired on her a little bit. And the very mere fact that she's saying, how could they not come up with that conclusion? Well, that's what they're there to do. They're there to... It's their job to remain as unbiased as possible, look at all the evidence that's presented and nothing outside of the evidence that's presented, and come up with a conclusion. So they were doing what they were there to do.
Of non-stop, relentless testimony from paid employees and towards the end of the trial, randos, as I say.
And that as I say, it's like, oh shit! I just called them the little people.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like she caught herself, like Marie Antoinette, let him eat cake, and there's a snobbish quality that she seems to exude quite often. So that was very telling.
That nervous laugh at the end. Yeah, that kind of the laugh said more about the fact that she realised she'd made a mistake than the actual sentence itself.
Which is actually interesting because that's more convincing than a lot of other stuff. It's like that actually felt real.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that was like kind of real and
she made a faux pas. And again, yeah, there's almost like a look of disbelief, like a very looking like I'm not sure I'm buying what you're selling.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this Savanah Guthrie, I think is her name. She looks like she could be her mother. And she's just been told that she only had one beer and went to the library.
Yeah.
I mean, does she not have that look? Just that
suspicious look of, yeah.
Really suspicious, in my opinion.
So you don't blame the jury?
I don't blame them. It wasn't... I don't blame them. I actually understand. He's a beloved character. And people feel they know him. He's a fantastic actor.
Their job is...
Do you see that the blink rate when go right up again when she was talking about, you got the eyelid flutter when she was talking about the fact that he's a beloved character.
And people feel they know him. He's a fantastic actor.
Their job is to not be dazzled by that. Their job is to look at the facts and the evidence. And they did not believe your testimony or your evidence.
Again, how could they, after listening to 3.5 weeks of testimony about how I was an uncredible person, not to believe a word that came out of my mouth.
Well, there we go. She she got to testify, though. I mean, what? She was saying Johnny was a liar. She was saying everybody else is a liar. I mean,
It's amazing. It's kind of, look, now I can't blame Johnny. I've got to blame somebody or something else. You know, they believe in Johnny, now I've got to blame somebody else. It's unbelievable. Exactly. I mean, she's dropped the "I remembers," which is great. She doesn't have to come up with any of that. I remember when I was in court and this happened and that happened, because we all love the remix that was made. But yeah, she's sitting there trying to convince again instead of trying to convey, instead of kind of telling what's happened. She's trying to win people over and win the public opinion. So and she's still trying to cast that little bit of doubt on Johnny as well.
Crazy. Well, folks, it doesn't matter what Gavin and I think. What do you think? Seriously. Mm-hmm. Do you believe her now? Is she convincing you? Do you feel bad that this has happened to Amber Heard? Or do you think Amber Heard should go work on getting some payments to send a check to Johnny? Please let us know in the comments below. Hey there, I'm Eric Hunley, and welcome to the channel. Now, I just released a video on Amber Heard about her little media tour with the Today Show. Of course, her lawyer did a media tour with the Today Show, herself and everybody else. For some reason, Amber does not want to quit this case. The world's ready to move on. She is not. People are interested. So I definitely want to cover the content. So if you want to find out the initial interview, I did a piece with Gavin Stone, which you can find, I think, right here somewhere. And then last week and the week before, a couple weeks before, it all is blurring in time. I did some work with Spidey from Behavioral Arts, along with Rob from Law and Lumber. And you can find one of these videos, again, up there somewhere. Hopefully I'm pointing in the right place. So today, because it's a gift that keeps on giving, Gavin has returned. He has joined me, and we're going to go through day 2 of Amber Heard's Today Media Tour. And to kick it off, how are you doing today, Gavin?
I'm great, thank you. Was it Shakespeare that said, "Methinks the woman doth protesteth too much"? I think this is the case.
Protesting or talking, she's doing something, my brother. It's killing me.
Oh, yeah, she keeps going.
Now, you found some good parts. We're going to look at them and analyze this and just kind of chop it up. And we're not going to be super thorough because obviously this just happened. We're just putting something out there. And honestly, if we were going to cover Amber Heard in full, just this 10-minute interview would take, what, an hour, hour and a half?
Easy. There's so much in there. We've just picked one or two little bits out because it's rammed.
I mean, honestly, I've called her a pinball machine of micro expressions. I've never seen anybody off the scale. We actually covered somebody else, and that will be coming out soon, who we had to work at. We've gotten so spoiled with Amber Heard that it's like, oh, wait a minute. This person is a little bit harder to read. So that was quite an interesting tale. So let's go and kick it off. We'll play these little parts, go through. Fortunately, the whole interview is 10 minutes. We won't waste anyone's time, and let's go.
Has it sunk in?
How could it? It's surreal and difficult. In part, yes. This has been...
All right, looks like, well, first you have the... You know, Amber, that's what we're saying to you. You're back? You're not done? Don't you have to go pay Johnny some money? What's up, Amber? And then is there a, what was that, a look at disgust or what's going on?
Yeah, so around about 26 seconds, this big intake of breath. As she's talking, there are several kind of nose crinkles and looks of disgust with the whole thing. Yeah, definitely a few giveaway signs. And the high blink rate as well.
By your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse.
Of course, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
All right. What's going on there?
So she's asked if she stands by everything she says, and she's literally going, yes. I mean, if you play that back, I've over exaggerated it a little bit, but if you play that back, you can see that she's shaking her head while she's answering yes. It's not congruent. She literally is the best person in the world. When you say we've been spoiled, she makes my job easy.
Oh, good Lord. Now, folks, just to let you know, we're about 54 seconds into the entire video, and we already are lighting it up. I mean, it's a gift. And remember, a little bit of it was an intro talking about the interview that was coming up. So I don't even know how much time is it Amber Heard. We'll try not to bury us.
The other thing is her response is very, very interesting as well. When she was asked about whether she was telling the truth, her response was, "I stand by everything I said in my testimony." Not, yes, I'm telling the truth. Not, no, he's lying. Not, nothing else. Not kind of anything other than I stand by everything I said in my testimony. Okay, that's a bit wishy-washy.
Yeah, that is a thing in statement analysis you're watching out for, right? You're looking for the no. You're not looking for never. You're not looking for actually. You're not looking for well. You're looking for no.
That should be the first thing that somebody should firstly come with a direct response. Yeah, a yes or a no to the question before anything else.
All right, so let's see what's next.
And saw just a courtroom packed full of Captain Jack Sparrow fans who were vocal, energized.
Can you put into words how that felt?
This was the most humiliating and horrible thing I've ever been through. I have never felt more removed from my own humanity. I felt less than human.
So that part there, that was probably the only part where she was, in my opinion, probably being as truthful as she has been this entire, in the last probably 12 months. There is a genuine flash of sadness a couple of times as she's speaking, which you can see that the emotional there, the response. I don't think she expected the whole thing to play out the way it did, and I think it really has got to her a little bit. So in that instance, I believe that's the only part that there is a little bit of truth leaking out.
Actually, Gavin, we've covered a little bit more on her, and I would say that there is a trend. And she is genuinely more concerned with being embarrassed or being humiliated. She said that on the plane. She said that here. She said that elsewhere. And that has come into play, I feel, because whenever she's talking about violence that is done against her, it's just not believable. It's just a statement. But if she talks about being embarrassed, you see every time that there's like a rage or a sadness or whatever else. And I'm not sure what to make of it, but that, in my opinion, is more important to her than anything in the world, how she looks and her image.
Yeah, we did. We kind of covered it slightly, didn't we, on one of the other videos? And I think there's definitely a psychological issue there in connection with any form of embarrassment or humiliation that she has. That will affect her a hell of a lot more than any physical violence will ever affect her. So,
back to the day of the verdict, were you feeling confident?
That's a great question. I wish I could say yes to that. I want to say yes to you, but it wouldn't be true.
That is such an interesting response. I would actually say it was truthful. And it's a weird one, though, because I feel like there's all kinds of deception flashing by in her head, and she's kind of just resigned to the answer. I don't know what you think, but it seems like a calculation. Like, okay, I guess I can't do that here. This is going to, I guess I have to say, yeah. It just seems like a child who's literally caught with her hand in the cookie jar, looking up, going,
yeah. I counted. There was over 7 seconds of pause between the question being asked and her answer, and she kind of sat there. 7 seconds. She did a lot of thinking. Thoughts move so much quicker, than kind of words, as it were, when you're speaking. And she's probably had a million thoughts go through her head in that 7 seconds, which is more than some people. And we need to cut that out. She's obviously made a decision how she's going to answer. She probably, up until that point, hasn't even thought about whether she felt confident on the day.
Yes, and by the way, not only do you have the time that you're talking about, the 7 seconds, but that's a great question is another stall that is used to calculate a thought and to push somebody back on their heel. Like, I'm going to give you something so that way you feel like I've given you a partial answer. So you'll hang out. You'll hang with me while I stall, think, oh shit, what do I do?
That's it, because you've got this great big 7 seconds of silence. Then you've got that's a great question, buys her a little bit longer. Then there's another gap of silence before eventually she says something like, I wish I could say yes. Which, again, statement analysis reads into, I wish I could say yes basically means no. So there's that side of it as well. And then she eventually does give her answer when she's had a good time to think about how she's going to respond.
Yeah, and also the wish I could say yes feels also like she just literally is pinned down. Like anything but the truth, anything but just the answer. It's like you're, in my opinion, seeing her overcome by everything and having to calculate and just realizing that I actually have to answer the truth. And if this is her baseline, if this is her character, it's like, wow, can you believe anything that woman said?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of manipulation with her words because it was anything other than saying no, wasn't feeling confident. Anything she could think of, she'd rather buy time, she'd rather look, kind of like she can't think of an answer or give any answer than say, no, wasn't feeling confident. And the reason she doesn't want to say, no, I wasn't feeling confident, is because she doesn't want to get pulled up on it later on when it comes to kind of being confronted with, you weren't even feeling confident because you knew you weren't going to win from the very beginning, or you knew you weren't going to win because you were in the wrong.
I think it's an embarrassment and a weakness. She doesn't want to look weak. And that's all that really matters to her.
You still couldn't look me in the eye and tell me that you think on social media.
Now, we covered that in the previous video, but definitely showing just almost a sneering contempt in that.
Yeah. You ever seen a dog when they growl and the one cheek goes up, like, and you can see that little bit of a tooth when they're just growling? It reminds me of that a little bit. She's got that kind of look on her face.
Well, she's got range, though, because I think disgust slipped in there, too. So a little disgust, a little contempt, a little, like...
Oh, yeah. She's got...
I mean, she's... Wow. I mean, it's like, this is the person that was voted the most perfect face in the world, but boy, she can be not attractive when her expressions come out. Such a darkness. And again, I've said this before, if she wasn't ruining people's lives, I'd say leave her alone. I really do hope she gets help. I think Isaac Baruch was dead on when he said, please get help, please just move on and get help. And she doesn't seem capable of it, even though I love it. Her final direct, she was saying, I just want to move on. It's like, well, Amber, move on.
In the closing arguments, the Depp lawyer called your testimony the performance of a lifetime and said you were acting. What do you say to that?
Says the lawyer for the man who convinced the world he had scissors for fingers.
I love it.
Okay, so what is she saying? I mean, there's so much in this stupid answer. Like, one, he's an actor. So she's saying that he's a brilliant actor. Oh, okay. And she's also, she's saying that I am a suck performer? You're not an actress? You're not in Avengers? You're not playing a god figure from a comic book movie? What the?
Oh, I know, it's loaded. There are so many different ways you can look into that answer, and different parts of it alone are unbelievable. If we start with the basics, first off, it's not even an answer to the question, is it? It's a deflection from the question. You know,
Yes.
yeah, they said you were acting, says the man who's an actor. Well, that's not saying or stating, I was acting or I wasn't. She's not made a denial. She's not saying she has or she hasn't. She's completely deflected the question. The reason I wanted to highlight that little bit is because the answer itself is so crazy that kind of anybody should be able to see through that and laugh at it as a response.
It's a non sequitur.
Yeah.
Literally. It's like, um, I asked you, what's your dog's name? And you said, it's going to rain. Or maybe you stepped on a bee.
Yeah.
God.
I'm a terrible actress.
Agree.
So I'm a bit confused how I could be both.
The DEP team argued that you were the abuser, that you instigated physical violence. Did you?
I never had to instigate it. I responded to it.
Ah, boom, there it is. The never. The never. The statement
Yeah.
analysis never. Yes. Because the answer, Amber, is no. Not
Exactly.
I never. What never isn't no, is it?
No. And the other thing is about there is the bit that is really relevant is the word had. I never had to instigate it. Now, if I,
just
said
did.
to you,
I felt like it. It was a good
Yeah.
idea. I felt like
Yeah.
it at the time. I didn't have to do it. I just,
Exactly.
I just did it.
I mean, if I said to you, Eric, did you rob that bank? And you say, I never had to rob the bank. Then that doesn't answer the question, does it?
No, it's my hobby.
Exactly. It was fun.
I don't have to do it. I didn't do it for groceries. I did it because it's fun.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost through, folks. I promise.
As I testified to, I was talking in those recordings as a person in extreme amount of emotional, psychological, and physical distress.
He
And
says
it doesn't.
he never hit you.
He can't-
Never. Is
yeah.
that a lie?
Yes, it is.
What about the witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence?
I've seen firsthand how people will file rank and support the person they depend on.
Did they all come in and lie in court?
I am not here to call any of his witnesses any names. I'm here to just kind of talk about it from what it felt like for me as the person who sat there.
Oh, good God. Okay. So we did get an actual yes.
Yeah. And again, this is one of those things where you have to look at the context with this. So, yes, it's great that we got an actual direct answer for the first time in the entire interview. In fact, the only time that she gives a direct answer and says yes. The problem is the fact that she's asked, did he ever hit you? She didn't ask, did he ever hit you first? Did he ever hit you, unprovoked? Was it actual abuse? It might be hit in retaliation. It might be hit in the fact that he was defending himself, and she's, he struck her in a, like a blocking movement or something.
You know what? It might even be that he rolled over in bed and didn't realize she was there and smacked her in the head. I've done that to my wife. I didn't mean to.
I meant to when I did.
But, well, okay. We won't talk about your situation, Gavin. Here, okay? Well, we're trying to keep this safe for people. So
Oh, okay.
I'll say my wife did it. You got to reverse that and say, you need to say that Helen did it and I probably deserved it.
Oh, she's actually keeping me on the bed, so.
Oh, God. And then, to continue. What about this tap dance about the witnesses? It was like, oh, I would never, but she just tacitly admitted that they told the truth. That, I would never accuse. And then she also didn't answer directly, again, because it was like, well, what about such and such? And she's like, well, people are loyal to Johnny. That's not a no. Mm-hmm. That's two things can be true at once. Yes, they're loyal to Johnny. Yes, he pays them. You never said they lied. And then when you were directly confronted, and to interviewer's credit, she directly confronted her, and she was squiggling away on the side. Yeah, well, I wouldn't directly say that.
Yeah, the whole story, because of the fact that she wouldn't I think she said, "I'm not here to call anybody names." Then you've got a slight little bit of sentence later. She's saying, "I'm just here to kind of tell from my point of view, sitting here." And then you just kind of keep it off. And that was it really. There wasn't really.
I think we got one more. We got one more. Hold on. You're not out yet, Gavin. You're going to earn your lunch here.
I talked about the horrible language. I talked about being pushed to the extent where I didn't even know the difference between, right and wrong. I will always continue to feel like I was a part of this, like I was the other half of this relationship, because I was. And it was ugly.
God, that's some contempt there.
Yeah, that's that. You got that snarl.
That's like Billy Idol contempt. She's just talking like, rebel, yeah. I mean, come on.
It's brilliant, isn't it? She could give Elvis a run for his money on that one. That lips right up there. So yeah, and again, the whole response. There was no kind of confession or denial. There was no kind of yes, I did hit him, no, or anything else. It was like I didn't even know right from wrong. Well, that's not very specific, is it? Yeah. Did you rob the bank, Eric? Well, I don't know right from wrong.
No, Gavin, I would never rob the bank. Never. I would never do it.
But did you?
Gavin, I have been the top bank employee for 20 years. What are you talking about? Speaking of which, Gavin, I need a yes or no answer. Are you going to be back for the next one so I don't have to sit this alone?
Oh, definitely. I'm more than happy to.
Awesome. And folks, it doesn't really matter what Gavin and I think. What do you think? And while you're here, subscribe so you can see the next one. And we have more stuff coming. So thank you so much for your time. And I'll see you in the next video. Hi there, I'm Eric Hunley, and welcome to the channel. If you're here from another Amber Heard video, hopefully eventually we run out of material. But I am back again with Gavin Stone. I've done other Amber Heard videos. One is up here, and we're going to react again because they are rolling out her interview like a death of 1,000 herds. And it's very, 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 very frustrating. I'm going to dub this particular segment. I came up with it, and I've been corrected by Gavin, and I'll have him explain it in a second, but I'd like to call it the eye-blocking drinking game. Because Amber Heard, whenever she is at a deception point, especially in this video, her eyes flutter like crazy. Now, I understand that technically it's called an eye flutter, but it's still in the category of eye blocking. An eye flutter drinking game doesn't sound as cool to me. I want an eye block. I want a good drink. So folks, if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing. Really trying to grow this channel. I have more great stuff coming up, including Half the Behavior panel will be on the channel tomorrow or yesterday or someday if you've watched it. They've been on the channel multiple times. I have other great people like the behavioral arts and statement analysis gurus like Peter Hyatt, the guy who brought statement analysis to America, Avinoam Sapir. You will not believe the catalog of people I have. Today's expert, though, is Gavin Stone. How are you doing, Gavin?
Hi, I'm great. So Amber Heard is actually taking up more of my time right now than what my wife and kids are.
Are you ready to move on yet, Gavin?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, I mean, we'll give it another couple of shots, and if it's not all over, then I'm going to quit.
Well, come on. She is good for remedial deception detection training, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. The problem is I'll find it too easy, and then when I get to the point where there's somebody who's actually more difficult to read, I'm going to struggle a lot more. So, she literally is an open book when it comes to this kind of thing. She's a textbook. It's great.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get right into it. We've got this is our third interview on her. It's actually the second half, though. So it's day 2, but our day 3, because we did the preview video. So we'll start right out, and let's see what we've got.
There's a text message where Johnny promises total global humiliation for you. Do you feel like that came true?
I know he promised it. I testified to this. I'm not a good victim. I get it. I'm not a likable victim. I'm not a perfect victim. But when I testified, I asked the jury to just see me as human and to hear his own words, which is a promise to do this.
All right. Got a lot there right out the gate. First off, the lovely pause. 10 full seconds.
Yeah. If it had been a bit longer, I'd have had enough to go and make a cup of coffee while I was waiting.
Yeah, and the fun part about this is, where was this Amber during testimony? Because I believe her.
Yeah.
I believe we were watching her sit and simmer in humiliation with that question, that she was feeling every moment of it. And then, back to Amber, she started to try to spin her way out of it. And remember I said, eye blocking drinking game? I'm going to say the first main instance right there is I was getting the jury to listen to me or believe that it was just me, some variant of that. What did I miss?
Did you see the fact that there is no direct answer here, and you're going to detect a pattern as we go along throughout this video of when she answers directly and when she doesn't, and most of the time there's no direct answer. So she's asked a simple question: do you believe he achieved what he set out to do? And she told a story. She didn't say yes and then reinforce it with why, or no and then reinforce it with why. She went straight into this kind of telling her side of the tale, as it were.
Yes, you're right. She is famous for that. Thank you for pointing that out. And so let's go ahead and continue here.
It feels as though he has.
Found liable. Are you nervous, as we are here today, about what you can say now?
Of course. I took for granted.
Okay, well, before the show, we had a little bit of a debate there because she said, of course, and was shaking her head no. Earlier, by the way, in the previous segment, she was shaking her head no when she was stating yes as well. She does that quite a bit. But you have a different take on that.
Yeah, it's a theory, so it's not 100%, kind of guaranteed. But there is the fact that if ever you've been asked a question, like the example I gave to you earlier, Eric, was like, have you ever celebrated your birthday? You may answer, oh, yeah. And it's almost like a disbelief at the question. You'll shake your head almost in disbelief that you've been asked a question that's so obvious. So it could be that. At the same time, it could be the fact that she's not been 100% truthful. At this point, I'm probably leaning more towards the fact that it could be just disbelief that it's such an obvious question that, that's why she's answered with a head shake while saying the opposite.
So what you're saying to me is, since she's already lost her ass in a lawsuit, she may be saying, duh.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You know what? I can go with that. It's not the first thing I think of, but sure, why not? I mean, there's so much more we have.
Yeah, and of course, when this all come about, the question is, are you scared that that this could go pear-shaped for you and you could get sued again for another defamation case? And she's going, of course. And you think, well, shut up then, don't be here, don't keep giving interviews. If you're that scared of it, then stay off the bloody telly and go and hide.
I think she's getting paid for this interview, though. And I think she needs the money. She's got a little bit of debt coming up here.
Yeah, so I hear. So, I mean, look out for the book, They Won't Believe My Lies by Amber Heard or something like that.
God.
We'll get the statement analysis team to do a number on the book when it gets released.
I'll tell you what, if they mark it in red everywhere there's deception, it would be bloody.
Yeah, and of course, if you look at that expression she's got on her face right now, it's almost like she's shifting from contempt to Jupiter's delight all in one go and then going back again. It's brilliant.
Life had seemingly moved on, and you decide to write an op-ed. Why did you do that?
Because the op-ed wasn't about my...
Oh God, that's one of the most beautiful Duper's delights I've ever seen, Gavin. Am I wrong?
Yeah. That was fantastic. That was beautiful. If ever there's an example of it, that's the we could have a textbook which was just photos of Amber Heard giving all the examples of like every kind of micro expression that there is.
Duper's delight is a term coined by Paul Ekman about essentially a liar who thinks they're getting one over on you.
Because the op-ed wasn't about my relationship with Johnny.
What's so funny is it's Duper's delight without the ammunition. You know, you're supposed to actually be getting something over on somebody. Everybody knows you're lying, Amber.
Yeah, she's finding blanks with that one.
You know, what the op-ed was about was, you know, me loaning my voice to a bigger cultural conversation that we were having at the time.
Did you worry? Gosh, I'd love to be a person weighing in on these cultural issues, but that's going to stir this all up again.
I obviously knew it was important for me not to make it about him or to do anything like defame him. I had lawyers, teams of lawyers, review all the drafts of this.
That was significant. Okay, couple things there that I saw. One, didn't answer the question, like you said. Went into a whole speech. Then the first one, I had lawyers, teams of lawyers. I think that was truthful. There were teams of, and by the way, that was brought out in court. Review all the drafts.
Yeah. And you've also got, that's like a little blame shift.
No, but the drafts a little. There's a draft that slipped the focus there. According to what I see, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like maybe they didn't review all the drafts. Like maybe at the last minute you pushed it through because we had a little bit of an editing deadline or something like that.
Yeah, there could have been any number of things there. That, for example, she may have sent a draft over to the lawyer signed off on it, it's come back, she's gone, do you know what, I'm going to add this, I'm going to put that in, and so you've got that side of it, and then you've also got the blame shift, and if the teams of lawyers that she had doing this were anything like the ones that took her to court, then it's possibly worth hiring some new teams of lawyers.
Legions of powerful men being canceled, losing their jobs. Did you want that to happen to Johnny Depp?
Of course not. Of course not. It wasn't about him.
Drink.
So
of course not. It wasn't about him.
Stress rates are right up there. Their eyes drying out. When people lie, basically what happens is you get a chemical rush where everything, you have a physiological change, and your throat and your mouth dries up, your eyes dry up, and that's what causes that little flutter. Your stress rates are increased due to the cortisol, and that's what causes that little flutter just momentarily. And of course, she does it every time that she's speaking about a particular sensitive subject. You can see that stress rate rising right up in her. So.
As I've testified before, and I will stand by until my dying day, I didn't want to cooperate with them. I didn't want this to be out. I didn't want this to be known.
Okay, I have to seize on that. Until my dying day, I swear to God, upon my mother's grave.
I didn't want to cooperate with them because I didn't want this to be, I didn't want to get him in trouble. If it was a hoax, I could have done that.
Drink. She's great, isn't she? I mean, you don't have to do anything. You just go ahead, watch for the blinks and hit the timestamp. There you go. Lie. I love it.
You went to court and it came out.
5 days later, I made the decision to stand up for myself and protect myself. You can't get a restraining order in private, which of course I didn't understand.
More eye blinking. Whatever.
Did you tip off TMZ?
I was going to say, he certainly didn't get tipped off by me or anyone in my...
tip off TMZ?
Why would they? No.
You ask no one to do that.
Okay, well, I'm sure this is what you wanted to point out too, because wasn't anybody related to me? Why would they? That's not a no.
No, so you've got a few things there at once, which is brilliant. So you've got this whole kind of yes, no thing going on with her, where she's doing the opposite of what she's saying. You've got the fact that she's locked eyes at the point of telling the lie, or what could be the lie. Now the thing is, there's this great big misconception when it comes to people being able to look you in the eyes. I know you know this, Eric. So for anybody who's new to the channel or doesn't know about this, people, when they are telling a lie, will maintain constant eye contact with you to take in as much information as they possibly can to see whether you're believing their lie or not. So if you watch, she's locking eyes with her and she's like, right, you do believe my lie, don't you? You do, yeah? And then when the rebuttal comes from the interviewer, and she's challenged on it, that's when you see that blink rate go right up, that flutter of eyelids again, and then she's straight back into locking eyes again, and the entire time doing this head shake while she's saying yes. Yeah, well, sorry, head nod while she's saying no.
If you have bruising, if you have injuries,
totally
it's fake. If you don't have any, then you weren't injured.
You had promised to donate the $7 million of your divorce settlement to charity. It was revealed at...
Yep. Did you catch that? It was that right at the end there.
A little
What
bit of
is
lip
that?
compression. Yeah. So that is almost like it's almost like a kind of shit. Didn't mean to do that. I didn't want to talk about this.
Withholding them?
Yeah, withholding, but almost to the point of kind of you're having the thought of, oh, I didn't want to go there. You've probably done it yourself in the past. You know, someone said, you know, be really careful with that glass, and you've gone, sorry. It's just that moment of panic, fear, adrenaline all at once where you kind of go, oh, you know. So you might knock a vase in a museum, something along those lines, and you go, you know, because you know it's a sensitive kind of thing. So that's what that is. Yeah, basically.
Everybody thinks that you've donated it, not that you've pledged it. So for the jurors sitting there, do you think they felt like that was you getting caught in a lie?
I don't know, because I feel like so much of the trial was meant to cast aspersions on who I am as a human, my credibility.
Double drink.
All the same. We'll all be drunk and hanging tomorrow.
Yeah, so you know, in for the sake of everyone's health, I'm only going to go over one more part because I do care about the audience. Gavin, you're cruel. You might say, "Oh, to hell with them." I'm a limey and I can drink anybody under the table, but I do care. I care about our audience.
You issued a statement, and part of the statement said, I still have love for Johnny.
Yes.
Is that still true?
Yes.
Holy shit.
And there you have it. That's what
That's two truthful answers. See how smooth those are? How it just, yes. No, there was no thought.
Yeah.
No pause, no hammer, blink. Yes, it was factual and actually very interesting. What do you think?
And that lines up for like kind of putting into place everything I've said previously about kind of you don't have to think about it if the answer's truthful. If you're in the moment and you're not trying to spin a yarn or kind of turn things to suit or make a story up, you can just answer naturally. So she's asked her, she said yes, straight away. It was direct. And there was no evading of the question and none of the usual signs that we get with Amber Heard. So I believe that she does still love him. And, you know, and I have said this before in some of our previous videos.
Definitely. When she's reminisced about when they met, that was real. I'm like, you don't reminisce these thoughts about an abuser.
No.
That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
She's like a dreamy teenager when she's thinking about him. You can see her kind of like, you know, she goes almost animated with it. So I do believe that she does have feelings for him. I think it, like I said before, it was a really volatile relationship, but she definitely still does have feelings for him, in my opinion.
Mine too. And folks, once again though, what Gavin's opinion is, what my opinion is, what our thoughts are, they don't really matter. We want to hear your thoughts. Please comment below. Please share with some friends. Get their thoughts too. We really need to get this out there. Hi there, I'm Eric Hunley and welcome to the channel. This is another video in the never-ending, forever saga of body language of Amber Heard. Amber Heard is of force. She spews more body language than any individual I've ever seen, save maybe Jodi Arias or something like that. But fortunately, Amber Heard didn't kill anybody. She makes us crazy. We get tired of talking about her, but she didn't kill anybody. So let's keep that in mind, and we can hold back wanting to kill her. Now, if you like what you see here, please consider subscribing. I have wonderful experts like our expert today, Gavin Stone, that come on. I just had the behavior panel on recently, and they've been on multiple times. But for now, let's look at Amber and see what's going on. Gavin, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. Good to be back.
Good to be back. Now, I've put together a bunch of clips because NBC dropped the first half, I'm hoping, of the overall interview. So there's a little more context in here, fewer jump cuts. We were kind of working with the pieces in previous videos. So I pulled more clips. We may cover a little bit of the same ground, but I think it's still worthwhile. And we'll start from the top, because I believe the first question we actually didn't cover, and it's a really good question.
Why did you want to do an interview?
One thing I can tell you is, one thing I'm not is vindictive. There's no part of me that sees any, this would be a really lousy way to get vengeance.
What do you hope to get across here? You've had everything said about you. And what do you wish people knew?
You know, Savannah, as silly as it is to say this out loud, my goal, the only thing I could hope for at this point, is just want people to see me as a human being.
Okay. I didn't see an answer in there until the very, very end, and that was sort of an answer, but boy, she equivocates all over the place. Help us out, Gavin.
Absolutely dreadful. She starts with an explanation, changes her mind, goes into another explanation. Then the whole thing goes on again. She goes on a little bit more, and then she says something else very similar. This would be a lousy way to get vengeance. Well, nobody said you were trying to get vengeance this way. So I think that's a total deflection from the question, and at no point does it get answered. So why?
This seems like a stammering mess.
Yeah.
When you wrote the op-ed, it raised all of this again. Why did you do that if you wanted to just go on and put this past you?
Because the op-ed wasn't about my relationship with Johnny.
Okay, that one I know there was something.
Yeah, there was a whole lot going on there. It was a stammering mess, and I'm trying not to repeat too much of what we said yesterday about blink rates and that kind of thing. So, but do you want to take it away?
Okay, again, not answering the question. And then, what's interesting is it's a statement analysis thing. She's putting her statement and Johnny as far apart as possible. Mm-hmm. And a statement, I know that's something there. It's like we're trying to avoid this association.
Yeah.
And so we put the like op-ed, stammering in between, and then relationship with Johnny. Johnny was quite literally the last word of her statement. So she put it as far away as she could, which really kind of implies some deception. Like, I don't want you to associate these two things now.
That's right. Sentences are structured in a way where you always prioritize first, so you can always listen to a sentence. And if it starts like, I went to town to get my nails done with my husband, then getting her nails done was more important to her than her husband. If you said, I went to town with my husband to get my nails done, you can see the priority in the sentence structure. Exactly the same kind of thing there. Johnny was the last thing she was thinking about.
That actually implies that she wasn't.
Yeah, which brings me to the possibility of, and I know you've said this before, that they're all friends in these circles, and I believe Johnny Depp is friends with Marilyn Manson, and she's friends with Evan Rachel Wood, and it makes you wonder if that connection is there, where they're all having a little bit of a chat of, yeah, I'm going through that too, and whether it's become a bit of a mother's club, a little bit of a ladies' gossip club. Not that I'm saying that this is a good or a bad thing, but they may be backing each other up to try and push a cause more so than think about what's actually happening in people's lives.
Okay, so you're thinking that the narcissism, I'm not a shrink, I'm not a psychiatrist, I am not trained, But if I were to run around and label somebody, I would say she has narcissistic tendencies in my mind. Do you think it is actually possible that she just is so oblivious to anybody but her own need that she just wrote the editorial and he was nothing more than a tool for that?
It's highly possible. Again, I mean, the word narcissist gets thrown around a hell of a lot these days. What people have to understand is everybody has narcissistic tendencies. It's like having a temper. Everybody has a temper. Sometimes they get angry, they do things they regret, but they don't walk.
I don't. I'm only on YouTube.
Well,
Kevin.
yeah.
I have none of that. No.
We know you're saying. But the thing is,
yes.
These people don't necessarily walk around every day smashing things up and growling at everybody. You know, a bit like a narcissist, you can have narcissistic tendencies without having narcissistic personality disorder. So, you know, again, just bear that in mind. You know, there are different, if you want to imagine it as a scale, there are different ends of the scale. Some people are more than others. So it's highly possible that she, you know, maybe a narcissistic person and was just thinking of herself at the time, and it didn't even cross her mind to think about how it's going to affect other people and the people around her.
But it alluded to him. It was unmistakable.
You know, what the op-ed was about was, you know, me loaning my voice to a bigger cultural conversation that we were having at the time. It was about reforms, legislative reforms, renewing the Violence Against Women Act.
I don't really get a lot out of that. Or is that me? I mean, I don't necessarily find that to be deception in of itself. I find it to be just kind of just talking around it, just saying, oh, it was about this, it was about this, about this, it was about this, and sort of just ignoring the question.
Yeah, again, she's trying to make it look that she's got this bigger cause in mind for why she was doing it. Again, probably wasn't even thinking about John. He kind of backs up what I said a minute ago, really, about kind of, you know, we were doing this movement for domestic violence against women, or, you know, and or whatever legislation it was she was trying to get done, which is great, and I'm in full support of that. But it makes you wonder about the credibility of her kind of story, if you want to call it that.
Right. Well, I think that she's using deception by evasion.
Yeah.
I'm going to use it. Like, quite literally, let's see. Did you rob the store? I went to the store, I got gas, I went home. I forgot the robbery part. I just said everything but that. So that feels a little bit like what may be going on.
Did you worry? Gosh, I'd love to be a person weighing in on these cultural issues, but that's going to stir this all up again.
You know, that's a great question, and one that I wish was considered more seriously, because it's important.
Oh yeah, good one on that. We got head shaking, we got eye blocking, we've got evasion. I mean, you got a stammer step. I mean, that it's all in there. Come on, buddy. Let's spice it up.
Can you play the first 2 or 3 seconds of that again for me, please?
I'd love to be a person weighing.
Did you see that big gulp at the very beginning?
Oh yeah,
there it is.
There it is. Yep.
So again, I've said this before, especially when it comes to Amber Heard, you don't need to be a genius or an expert in anything. We've all seen the cartoons when somebody goes, we know that there's something wrong. That was the biggest giveaway. There's everything else going on that is just typical Amber Heard, the blink rate, all the usual signs that are there for her. But that big gulp at the beginning, that was what really did it for me.
What did you see out the window of that car?
Every single day I passed city blocks lined with people holding signs saying things that I couldn't repeat on television. And they had to establish barricades to protect me so I could drive into a protected entrance of the courthouse. Every single day, that's how I walked in the court.
Okay, now that I'm just going to say, I don't think there's any really big body language to read on that, other than because most of it didn't cover her, but I think she's full of shit, and I'll tell you why. We're talking about a news show here, and all they could find were those signs. I guarantee, even if they had to fuzz it out, you would see really bad signs if there were bad signs. That makes for better drama. So, come
exactly.
on.
I mean, if you look at this from the very beginning, where you do actually see Amber Heard, you can see that there is no blink right there when she's talking about every day I had to drive to court. This is where she's being truthful. So you can compare the fact that she's not doing that eye flutter that she does until afterwards when she's talking about actually pulling into the courthouse where there were probably hostile people which weren't too happy and booing her. And then you can see that flutter of eyes at the thought and the stress of the thought of going into the courthouse on that day. So again, it does kind of correlate to what we were saying about, her baseline is not to do that eye flutter unless there's some stress going on somewhere.
True. And by the way, I do think people were booing her.
Oh,
That's absolutely true. Not a very popular person right now, but I think that the signs, again, this is the problem with Amber, is she takes a story, baseline true, and then just starts to pile on and pile on and pile on, and before long, it's like this crazy Jack Nicholson Shining fantasy.
Here's Johnny.
And we just don't know what to even think. And I think that's even here. It's like, oh, there were signs there. Hearsay. We just saw, oh my God, hearsay. Whoa. But to her and the way she acts, and if the BPD is correct and the histrionic, she takes all of these as a blow. So it is possible in her mind that she saw that as a vile, hateful attack on her.
If you notice, a lot of this has been about image.
Oh, we know it's always her image. Every time she says, I was embarrassed, I was humiliated, anything else, that's when you see the real emotion. Not when she's describing violence. Violence is just a casual thing. Any kind of humiliation, oof, that gets her every time.
I didn't want this to be a thing. I didn't want it to be a trial. I didn't want it to be a part of the public record. But when someone sues you, you don't really have a choice.
I actually believe her. Well, I believe half of it, okay?
Right.
I don't think she wanted to be on trial.
What about the witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence? Did they all come in and lie in court?
I'm, less interested in sitting here, relitigating it with you. I am not here to call any of his witnesses any names. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to just kind of talk about it from what it felt like for me as a person who sat there.
I think I saw a little anger, a little contempt. Not I don't want to call him, but she was turned because she does the. We talk about the Amber sneer, and I'm like Billy Idol. You're saying Elvis, but it's her left. So when the camera's coming on the right, I could see it over there, but you didn't see it as clearly, and there was a definite flash.
I'm pretty sure she was a guard dog in her last life. When they give you that small warning with that one lip.
I will not argue with you. Not on that one.
There are tapes in which you say, I started the fight.
I know much has been made of these audio tapes. And as I testified on the stand, what you would hear in those clips are not evidence of what was happening. It was evidence of a negotiation of how to talk about that with your abuser.
Yeah, I had 3 guys negotiate living daylights out of me on my trip home from the pub one night a few years ago.
Oh, I guess you came to an agreement, right? So you were on the ground. Speaking of expressions, look at Savanah. I you know what? I feel like maybe we should do a follow-up reading and just do Savanah, because she leaks all kinds of things and she's fun to watch.
Why not? Yeah, let us know in the comments what you think as well. Yeah.
Yes, definitely tell us down below. All right. And folks, I know we're not dwelling on every single clip because there's so much going on here that some of it's just kind of like, okay, and we can see that.
And I don't want to keep repeating what we've done on some of our other videos, but you can always see her blink rates go up when the stress rises, when she's saying something that is incongruent with what's going on. It's there constantly, so I don't want to keep banging on blink rate all the time. We're looking at other angles as well with this.
I am looking at a transcript that says, he says, you start physical fights, and you say, I did start a physical fight.
I did start a physical fight.
You did. But you're just telling me today, I never started a physical fight, and here you are on tape saying you did.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, not only will you take the blame for things that you shouldn't take the blame for, but when you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white, because it's anything but when you're living in.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Blink, rate, head shake.
I could probably write an entire chapter of a book using the micro expressions. I think she covered nearly all of them. You could go on with the statement analysis, how she evaded the question and didn't give a direct answer. There's head shakes, head nods. It's all going on. So you could literally kind of splice that one clip into probably maybe 50 different clips of all the micro expressions she shows in that area. Anger, disgust, contempt, the lot, it's all in there. Really love that one.
Even a baby gulp at the beginning.
Oh, well, do you know what? I actually missed that confession.
It was just a very...
He says he never hit you. Never. Is that a lie?
Yes, it is.
That one has been bothering me. And again, we've covered that before, but it does come across as he hit her at one point in her life. I don't know the degree or whatever it was. I don't know, as I said, if he rolled over in his sleep and hit her or something, but she did answer it in a basically truthful fashion from what I saw. Did you see any deception on that? Yes.
No, I didn't see any deception. I'll be honest with you. I looked at that clip. If you watch, this is actually a perfect example of where she doesn't do her typical Amber Heard eye flutter. She's got her eyes open. She's straight with a direct answer. Taking the context into that, though, you can accidentally hit somebody. You can hit somebody in defense. You know, there's so many different ways. And she probably is being truthful, and he probably has hit her at some point, but maybe not attacked her in the point of view that she's trying to portray. So, you know, again, all of it has to be taken into context.
He says he's never struck any woman. His lawyers argued at trial. None of his other prior relationships, not one woman has come forward and said he physically hit them. You were the only one.
Look what happened to me when I came forward. Would you?
That's an interesting one. There was that gulp again. And this one was an in-between gulp. We'll call this middle gulp. Because the first one you pointed out was a good gulp. I don't know. What do you see here?
It's almost like a deflection of the question. She's asked the question, and Amber Heard had responded with, look at what happened to me, would you? Well, that didn't answer the question. It's moved the focus from her to the interviewer. It's tried to win over the sympathy votes of possibly other people who have been victims, and possibly even Savanah herself. So it's a great way of kind of shifting the focus and moving the attention away from herself. That's what I see within the statement more so than the body language. The body language, there wasn't too much. You know, like you said, you've got that McDonald's medium-sized gulp going on in there. And because we've got a whole menu of small, medium and large, right? Oh, no, regular, medium and large, I apologise. Other than that, not really massive amounts of anything to take too much note of.
There was another trial, dealt with the same substantive issues, handled differently by a judge instead of a jury.
Okay, I like the stress on the judge. That I feel like there's some things going on there. Like one, the behavior panel did a great piece on Amber talking about this type of thing, and how she doesn't like we'll just say randos. She doesn't like randos determining her fate. She loves a qualified judge. However, there's a stress on that because she doesn't like the current judge. So I'm reading some mixed signals in that one.
When you're in this kind of case, in comparison to a case with a jury, it's an entirely different setup, and all you've got to do is win over one person, really, and that's the judge. You've just got to get the judge on side. So if she makes the right smiles and noises and whatever else, then it should be pretty easy for her to do. When you're trying to win over an entire jury over an extended period of time, it makes life a little bit more difficult, especially with social media as well, kind of adding to the pressure.
And we prevailed, overwhelmingly.
She loves that decision. She wants that decision. She wants to go back and talk. I don't think there's much here.
Right now, as you sit here today, do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, and I will to my dying day. I know what happened to me. I'm here as a survivor. To my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
There we go. And I know I made a big deal out of that one. Till my dying day.
I don't know.
I swear on my mother's life. Swear to God.
Yeah. She goes on about her testimony and how she stands by her testimony. But my notes here say, what happened to it happened? Standing by your testimony is not turning around and saying, yeah, look, this happened. Irrelevant to what the court says, I was a victim.
I am testifying about sexual assault and domestic violence next to a jury in front of a whole packed courtroom of people who are expressing their vocal support and disdain for me.
Really? Because I thought she was testifying against a defamation case. Which makes you wonder again if this whole NPD's kicking in and it's all about her. Instead of thinking about it like kind of he's suing me for defamation, I've got to defend myself. All of a sudden it's about, well, hang on, this is what happened to me and this is what I'm a victim of. Swinging it all around to her and making her the centre of the whole court case, rather than the fact that it's actually Johnny Depp that it should be centering around and what happened to him.
Sure.
There's a binder worth of years of notes dating back to 2011 from the very beginning of my relationship that were taken by my doctor, who I was reporting the abuse to.
This is the new stuff here. And I find it interesting. I think she's telling the truth that there's a binder full of notes from her psychologist. However, as Rob of Law and Lumber came on and said, that wasn't admitted because that's like a double hearsay. She told her psychiatrist that this happened, and there were notes taken of her telling that. And then if they were to testify, then they'd be testifying of somebody that was telling them. This is not a medical record. This is not a freaking, broken bone. This is not a bruise. This is her saying this happened. Well, she's been saying this happening in the court.
And she puts stress on the word doctor. If you notice when she's talking, she's like, there's a binder of years worth of evidence from my doctor. You have the credibility that the word used to have with it so many years ago. And again, you don't know if this is just a counsellor. This could be somebody who she's going to and telling all kinds of stories to, who's charging her $100 an hour just to listen to her whinge. So again, it doesn't make it true. It just makes the fact that there's evidence there, which obviously was seen through as not being able to be submitted.
This is a doctor, not a rando.
Mm-hmm.
Not a random person, not a random cop with a body camera. This is a doctor. Somebody I paid.
Her notes represented years of real-time explanations of what was going on.
You got the whole look of approval going on. You got the raised eyebrows going on. She's locked eyes, saying, "Look, you believe in me. You're getting this." To see what she says about it and see if she's kind of believing what her story is there. So the usual kind of stuff. Rather than having the blink rate being high, she's now looking at her directly with this kind of, "You do believe what I'm saying, right?" With that look of approval, and to see if she's winning the interviewer over.
All right, last one. Whew.
I look forward to living my life, and I have a long one, I hope, in front of me. And I will continue to walk through this with my chin up.
And she probably does believe to a degree that she's now going to have her little happily ever after. Let's ask the audience on this one.
You tell us, please. What do you think? And more importantly, do you want us to do Savanah? I kind of want to do Savanah. I really feel like there's a lot going on with Savanah. And she's sort of mentioned, and we've mentioned her a couple times, but she is giving away as much as Amber Heard. And she's not trying to be deceptive. She's just leaking her expressions. So tell us below, do you want to hear more? And again, make sure you subscribe so you can catch the next video, and we'll see you then. Hey there, welcome to the channel. I'm Eric Hunley, and I'm joined again by Gavin Stone.
I'm good, thank you.
Who is my expert in viewing the last or the second half of the Amber Heard Dateline interview. If you like content like this, and experts such as Gavin Stone, the entire behavior panel, or many, many other folks, please consider subscribing. Now, Gavin and I have been going through the interview that ultimately aired on Dateline in pieces, and the full interview came out on Friday. However, there's a caveat, and this is very frustrating. It has already been proven by my friend Spidey at Behavioral Arts. He pointed out an inconsistency that Amber Heard had stated, where she separated herself from victims by stating something along the lines of, they don't have resources like you and me, Savanah, which made her not a part of the pool she's supposed to be. Very interesting. Now, that could have been a slip up. It could have been anything. However, it was not in the full interview. The words were carefully excised with a stealth edit, and it's no longer there. You have to go to the earlier clips that were released to see this information.
So yeah, with a lot of this, we can only say what we see, and we're only looking at what's going on in these particular clips and the bits that we're able to see. But yeah, we can still pick up quite a lot from it.
I've got over a dozen clips today. Baker's dozen, right? Let's get cracking.
Depp's team argued that Amber had a history of being untruthful. Case in point.
$7 million in total was donated to, I split it between the ACLU and Children's Hospital of Los Angeles.
I'm going to interrupt right in the middle of this clip within the clip, because I just saw a little deception right there. Did you pick up on that? What did I see? Did I get it right?
Your little Amber Heard flutter?
The Amber Heard flutter and the Amber Heard change of direction.
Ah, right, okay.
I split it between the ACLU and Children's Hospital of Los Angeles.
They played a clip from an interview on Dutch TV where she said she had donated her $7 million divorce settlement to charity. But
It was revealed at trial that you haven't done so yet. Do you think that raised questions?
Was donated to. This is a major point in the trial. Donated to. She used donated to.
Mm-hmm.
It got separated from her statement there. She paused, changed directions, and then said two directions. So I think that even back then she was tripping on the word donated. What are your thoughts?
If I said the same thing to you, if I said, well, Eric, I've got $8 million and I'm going to donate it to, it'll get split between. All of a sudden, it's are we talking about the $8 million, or we're talking about $1 that I might split between?
So I think that even then, she was playing games with this. So we'll keep going with the rest of the clip, and I just literally saw it now, and I was like, oh, look at that.
they played a clip from an interview on Dutch TV where she said she had donated her $7 million divorce settlement to charity. But
It was revealed at trial that you haven't done so yet. Do you think that raised questions as to your credibility with the jury?
Well, I think, look, when you say to someone, I bought a house, are you lying? Because you have not paid for it in full at that point? I made a pledge, and that pledge is made over time by its nature.
Okay. First thing I asked you, start with the...
Oh, yeah.
Start with a shrug, and just a little bit like, I don't know. Immediate eye block, not answering, and then goes right into the when you buy a house. She tried that analogy in court and it got slapped down.
Yeah, you'd think she'd have come up with a better one. Well, you got the gulp, which we've discussed before. She seems to have 3 different sizes. That seemed to be a medium-sized gulp. That she did today. The blink rate goes up again a little bit. We got the down and right kind of glance as she's gone into emotion. And then after she says, if you bought a house, you got a long pause while she's having to think about where she's going with it. You know she's done this speech before. More importantly, like you said, it didn't work then. Why use it again? Nobody bought it the first time.
You're splitting hairs a little bit there, because when you say I donated, you know that everybody thinks that you've donated it, not that you pledged.
I love Savanah. She's like, I'm not playing with you at all.
So for the jurors sitting there, do you think they felt like that was you getting caught in a lie?
I don't know, because I feel like so much of the trial was meant to cast aspersions on who I am as a human, my credibility, to call me a liar in every way you can, and
That
more.
was the trial. It was a credibility contest.
Mouth shrug, non-answer, double non-answer. Well, I think that, I like she double starts on those. Little bit of contempt in her answer too.
What do you have? Very clunky speech. She's buying time throughout the whole thing with the clunky speech and the way she's talking. And again, like you said, evasive with the answer. There's no kind of direct answer there at all. Although I did love Savanah's comeback.
They suggested this was a publicity stunt, a way to raise your profile at a time when these issues were quite relevant.
It was one of those few moments of levity in the trial when I heard it suggested that my op-ed in the Washington Post could potentially boost sales for an international multi-million-dollar superhero franchise movie that I was starring in. It's the other way around. You know, if anything, we're trying to get more awareness and attention on the issues within the article.
It wasn't a publicity stunt or a way to...
It's the opposite.
First off, Savanah asked, did you do this to get the fame off of the movie that was about to be released? Mm-hmm. Amber, please don't take this the wrong way, but have you ever run across somebody who likes to use language in a manner and show how smart they are? And you just kind of laugh at it. Well, but this is sort of her. It's like, that was a moment of levity. A moment of levity. Doesn't that sound good? It's levity. But what was the moment of levity? Oh, the moment of levity was that her op-ed would help that movie. Well, that's not actually what was stated. And then she said, if anything, it's the opposite. Well, the opposite is exactly what was asked.
I mean, she did a good job of it. And a lot of people probably would bypass it and it would go unnoticed. But, like you said, it's the question was, did you cash in on this movie franchise, on the publicity, and to raise your profile? And she's turned it around completely, not once but twice, to say, no, if anything, it was the other way around. It's like, well, no, this is what we're asking. So, but I'd have probably pushed there if I was Savanah, but who knows?
Gavin, if I wrote an op-ed and I was going on Joe Rogan tomorrow, and I timed the release of the op-ed to coincide with when I went on Joe Rogan, and you asked me, go ahead and ask me that basic question.
Okay, so did you time the release of this op-ed, Eric, to coincide with your starring on the Joe Rogan show?
Absolutely. I want to get people to see it, sure. Now, if you said it in an aspersion, it could be answered and say, no, I did not do that in an evil way. I did that to get good exposure. Of course, I'm going to put that out then. Why would I put it out sometime else? I want as many people to watch it or read it as possible.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been her best answer all round. It's just to turn around and say, yeah, of course I did. I want people to read my article. I got the perfect time. I was in the limelight. Why not?
I feel like she's so caught up in the whole, I can't give on anything. Mm-hmm. You'll probably point it out, but later on, Savanah said you had an answer for everything.
What I learned in that trial is it's never going to be good enough. If you have proof, then it was a scheme. It was a hoax. If you don't have proof, it didn't happen. If you have a bruise, it's fake. If you don't have a bruise, then violence clearly didn't hurt you. If you told people, then you're hysterical. If you didn't tell anyone.
All right, go up at the end, and then this is the Amber Heard eye flutter, beautiful suite. Almost every point that it could be a deception, there was an eye flutter. And it's perfect timing.
So yeah, if you look at that, her body language is very closed off. She's very, very tight with her hands on her movement. Very small movements when she's making them. They're very small and jerky. There's no demonstrative big movements. No kind of gesticulating. Nearly said that right. As she's talking. So again, not 100% convinced that she's believes what she's saying. And you've got the usual, like you say, the usual Amber Heard flutters.
No experience like being cross-examined. What was that experience like for you?
The scariest, most intimidating thing for anybody talking about sexual violence is not being believed, being called a liar, or being humiliated.
Not I was humiliated, or it was very hard on me. I had a tough time. I was embarrassed. No, it's, the scariest thing, and we're going into a narrative about somebody else.
Yeah, again, it comes back to what we were talking about as well previously about we're back to humiliation. And she's saying the scariest part of sexual violence and this kind of thing is the humiliation from it all and not being believed. I'm not 100% sure that's the scariest part.
Here comes the comments, but I could see someone who is truly victimized, that the idea that no matter where they turn, they're not believed, if it was really going on, would be incredibly terrifying.
Yeah, for somebody who's actually currently undergoing it. And with Amber at the moment, it's a case she's no longer in it. She's no longer in that position, and she's moved on to she's kind of safe from it. If this happened, she's safe from it now. So she's now saying the scariest part of the whole thing was not being believed. For me, like I say, I think the scariest part would have been it happening and her wanting to get out, and then afterwards, now she's safe. If nobody believes her, then you can see that side of it being a major concern. But from the whole kind of scenario from start to finish, not so sure.
I'll give it to her. I just am saying, I don't believe she was in the situation. So
yeah,
kind of a moot point on that.
Is there one piece of evidence that you wish the jury had seen that you could point to? You say, this would have made the difference.
Yeah.
What is it?
There's a binder worth of years of notes dating back to 2011 from the very beginning of my relationship that were taken by my doctor, who I was reporting the abuse to.
Nice mixed bag there. I believe her, yeah. I believe she does think if this binder could get in, this really could have done something for me. Mm-hmm. I believe the binder's going in. I'm having trouble believing the notes that you're putting into it because, again, we're seeing the Amber flutter.
Well, we've got a couple of things going on here. I mean, I did mention, we have covered this previously, where she stresses on the word doctor. Like this boy is this credible kind of, look, it's got to be authentic because it's my doctor. We did discuss it in the last video, but what we've got here really is technically somebody else who's making a diary for her. I mean, it's not really, medical, like you mentioned, it's not like she's had a broken arm and it's on a medical record. This is a doctor where she's gone to the doctor and say, Johnny's hit me, I had a bruise on my cheek. The doctor's written it down. That's it. So it's not evidence. And so you can understand why it wasn't put in.
Doctor's notes can't really go in because they heard something and they're telling you rather than going right to the source, right?
Exactly.
For example, if the doctor was watching them out in the waiting room and they had a scuffle and the doctor said, I saw them having a scuffle on this date, that wouldn't be hearsay, right?
That
would be a direct, she witnessed that. But you see, you have Amber saying something and then the doctor saying something. So you got this double removal.
I testified I was attacked on that flight and I was attacked in front of people. And when I got off the plane, sent messages to people about what had happened. I'm angry because this happened. Can you believe he did this and this and this, And one of the people I reached out to was my father.
Amber, we know you testified. Tell us what happened. Don't tell us that we testified.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole thing's very nebulous anyway. With the kind of this happened, that happened, this very wishy-washy. It's not very specific. You know, she hasn't turned around and said, "I got off the plane after he hit me and kicked me," which I would have liked to have heard. She also said, "When I got off the plane, sent text messages, and that pronoun I was missing." She didn't say, "When I got off the plane, I sent text messages." She said, "I got off the plane, sent text messages," and that would have been a little red flag. Possibly slightly forgivable, but in statement analysis we tend to look for missing pronouns as being something to alert you as to why are there missing pronouns.
It's very, very awkward. Like, I encourage you, you're watching, say a sentence like that. Say, "I went to the store, send a text message." Does that make sense? No, you're going to say, "And I sent a text message." Now, I understand to a degree if you said, "send a text message yesterday." It's not good. It's still going to, raise flags, but boy, mid-sentence I think is even stronger.
When I asked his lawyers, why do you think you won? The answer I got was, because she never took responsibility for anything she did in the marriage. And as we're sitting here and I watched your cross-examination, there's an answer for everything.
She literally gulped like she was hit there. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Like right back. Oh my God. So tell me what happened, Gavin.
So I did mention to you earlier that I love the structure of this sentence that Savanah put together. It's really, really brilliant. I'm going to refer to my notes here for a second, so if I look down for a moment, forgive me. So she starts it off with, when I asked his lawyers, and then there's a slight pause. Why do you think you won? The answer I got was, and then there's a slight pause again, because she never took responsibility for anything. Then there's this long pause. She did, and a long pause again in the marriage before she finally continues. And that's when she says, sitting here now, I watched the cross-examination and you have an answer for everything. And you see Amber's response and you see her midway through the question going, where are you going with this? I'm not sure I like this. And you can see almost that look of, I'm not happy with this at all. Like you say, and then there's this big gulp of like, I'm really concerned. And the structure obviously worked, and we'll see in this next video now, because this was very cleverly asked, this question. I did like it.
Do you feel you should have owned up to more of your own bad behavior that was revealed in court?
I'm glad, actually, you asked me that, because, there is an answer for these things. You say, I said this on the stand. You hear my voice in those audio tapes. It's not the voice of me now. That's not who I am now. I did do and say horrible, regrettable things throughout my relationship. I behaved in horrible, almost unrecognizable to myself ways. I have so much regret.
Good Lord. She starts out almost with like a sneer, or a laugh, or I don't know what it is, but it's like that odd smile. And then Savanah keeps going and interrupts her mode. And then she falls into the, I'm glad you asked, actually. I flutter on the glad, I flutter on the actually, which implies the opposite, alternative thoughts and plans. Obviously, she's not glad she asked that, but I think there's a bit more in there. Take it away, Gavin.
Which, like I say, the structure seemed to have worked, and I think it's possible that she was still processing it at the point she started answering, and that was why you got that kind of sneer at the beginning, which turned, I think, into a little bit of a laugh of relief when she realised where she was going. When she said, "Oh, you had an answer for everything," and she's like, "Oh, phew, I'm glad you're going that way with it, and not where I thought you were going with it." And I think that's possibly what happened. And so if I were to turn around and say to you, Eric, you never take responsibility for anything that happens at any point on a Walmart shopping trip on a Sunday. The severity of the whole thing lessens, and of course I think that's where she's going, oh right, I see where you're going with this now, and that's why that nervous smile was there.
On the first day of the trial, you issued a statement, and part of the statement said, I still have love for Johnny.
Yes.
Is that still true?
Yes.
After everything?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love him. I loved him with all my heart. And I tried the best I could to make a deeply broken relationship work. And I couldn't.
You know what I see in there, and this one was bothering me before because she was being truthful. I love him. I love him. Absolutely. Absolutely. Then she turned. And when she said, I loved him with all my heart, she started to get deceptive. So is it possible that there may be a time thing? Like now suddenly she loves him and he's earned this love through this war that they're having? Or I don't know. I'm very confused by this clip. So I'm depending on you to make it clear.
I do have a possible theory here with this, and this is, it goes into the NPD that we were talking about before, and the fact that she has a lot of these narcissistic traits. Now, where I'm going with this is, if ever you're in a relationship with a narcissistic person and you really want to trigger them, then the thing is tell them that you're leaving, and watch them go, no, you don't decide when we split up. I'm the narcissist. I decide. I'm the one. You don't get to leave me. I'm the one that makes the decisions. And I think it's almost hurtful to her pride when he says, no, I don't want this anymore. And more to the point, I'm going to sue you for defamation. And I think that's where we could be going with this whole kind of, no, I still love you. You come back here and do as you're told and be a good Johnny Depp until I say we're over, and then we can stop loving each other. And I think that's possibly where this whole thing has gone. Might be wrong, but that's the impression I get. There's possibly those narcissistic traits kicking in there for her.
I hope this hasn't, had the chilling effect that I worry it may have on other people. I worry about that. But if I can look you in the eye, Savanah, and say I'm still here, and maybe that serves to balance out some of the very, very real fear others may have about coming forward or speaking out.
I love how she says, if I can look you in the eye, it kind of slinks down underneath like almost like a dog who got caught doing something, looking them in the eye. And then the whole very, 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 which is statement analysis separation, let me see. It's like, I'm happily married. Okay. Good. I'm very happily married. Okay. You need to add the very, maybe I wasn't happily married before.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me, and there's a lot going on in this. And one of the things that concerned me as well was towards the end, where she's got her chin forward in a very almost prideful way, when she should be more chin down in that kind of entire explanation when she's talking about whether it's affecting other people stepping forward or not. I reckon there should be a bit more remorse there on display. She's trying to show remorse on her face, on the expressions, but it's not there if you look at her posture. So the other thing was as well, she's doing these kind of comforting actions while she's there, and very self-soothing while she's talking about it, very drawn in body language there this entire time. So which is kind of saying the opposite of her having the chin up. It doesn't look right, it's conflicting, it's not natural.
Well, there you have it. Gavin, congratulations. This is the end of this interview that we've covered, hashed up 5 different ways, it seems, of Amber Heard. And you now can go back to your life. But what Gavin and I feel about this is not important at all. We want to know what you think. Do you think she's telling any kind of truth at any point? Do you think Gavin and I are right? Do you think we're wrong? What do you think Gavin and I missed? That I definitely want to hear, because we didn't cover everything, and we'd love to have you fill in the blanks. So please comment below, subscribe so you can catch the next video. Have some neat stuff coming out. I have a former friend of Marilyn Manson. I've got an analysis with Gavin of Evan Rachel Wood on The View, and more to come. So, see you in the next video.